Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Entertaining series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project. More specifically, this instance, SRG320's work in progress 32X core. Because one, we haven't talked about the 32X in a while, and two, that's because there really haven't been any updates. But as of a few days ago, depending on when I scheduled this video, there was a new core in the Unstables Nightly channel that fixed up some bugs on the overall 32X side of things. And because the 32X and the Sega Saturn do share some hardware in common, I'm sure a lot of what SRG320 is improving on the Saturn side of things with those Hitachi SH2s definitely can water back down into the 32X core. And it is one of those things. Yes, the 32X is definitely Sega's worst piece of hardware in my opinion, but that doesn't mean there aren't fun games to play on the actual console in and of themselves. And I feel like for the large majority of my viewers, you guys don't actually own 32X hardware. So leave me a comment down below and you tell me, is there a 32X in your collection, or have you basically just been using software emulation or MiSTer FPGA? I would be curious. But it's great to see this progress as well, because if you think about it this way, outside of the Sega Dreamcast, we've run the entirety of Sega consoles on something like MiSTer FPGA, from the Master System all the way to the Sega Saturn, and we obviously know something like Dreamcast is not going to work on MiSTer, maybe a prospective MiSTer too, but then again, we never know what's going to happen. But we're basically almost at a full set of Sega console cores, and that's absolutely so much fun to see. Now, there's been some improvements to Mortal Kombat 2, and we're playing here one of the actual fan versions of the game, and big thanks to Andy D for helping with the captures. I've been incredibly busy in the last week or so, and it is great to see these things come to MiSTer FPGA, and hopefully soon we get that 3DO test core and we can try out the 3DO port of Mortal Kombat as well, just to kind of play around in the franchise. But for every game on the 32X that maybe isn't worth playing, something like this port of Mortal Kombat 2 is definitely worth checking out, and that is a ton of fun. And getting improvements to a core like this definitely makes a difference as well, because again, the 32X in conjunction with the Sega Genesis with both of the video cables and power adapters out is an absolute spaghetti mess of a console, so much so that I just sent my 32X off to make it into a Sega Neptune, because even I get driven nuts by having to try to hook up all the cables and find the power outlets to actually make the thing work. Now, moving over to another game that is great on 32X and has seen some improvements, especially in the Resurrection version, is going to be Doom. And that is the thing, it might not off face value be the best version of Doom to play, but it is an interesting one, and for some people out there, I know it's also the first one they played. It's also going to be our first soundtrack sample, just to hear how good the 32X core is these days. Go ahead and listen for 35 seconds, but I'll be right back with a lot more gaming. It sounds exactly like Doom should to me, and it's always been a great soundtrack. And there's also been improvements in Knuckles Chaotix, and honestly, this new core under the hood is basically just getting timings configured and getting everything adhering to what real hardware would do, making sure all the games run and run correctly. While there are still a few bugs in a few games, there's been vast improvements, and even though Knuckles Chaotix definitely isn't one of those hidden gems in the Sonic universe, it's a fun game, but definitely one that has a very weird sense of what it's trying to do gameplay wise. It is great to see it come over to MiSTer FPGA, and it is great to see it get improvements, because again, I can't stress enough, there is fun to be had on the 32X. You just need to basically find it, figure out where it is, and enjoy it the best you can. But even in the intro to something like Chaotix, there's been a ton of testing going on in the background over on MiSTer FPGA Discord channels for the 32X, just basically making sure that after running this thing for hours, everything still did exactly what it was supposed to. And if you're ever curious about exactly how things work and how things get tested, and you aren't yet a member of something like the MiSTer FPGA Discord server, I can't recommend enough that you pop over there and just get part of the conversation going for yourself. Everyone's super friendly, everyone loves to chat. You can definitely get into testing as well, because a lot of times the information I get is just by going over other people's tests in the Discord server and asking them questions, so I know exactly what to capture. It's definitely a huge help to me. But honestly, Chaotix here, a very fun, very colorful game that definitely makes you think about what a Sonic game could be. It isn't in any way, shape, or form anywhere near as good as Sonic 1, 2, 3, or CD CD, which also run on MiSTer FPGA, but as far as a preservation standpoint is concerned, getting this thing running exactly like it would on real hardware is awesome, because trust me, a 32X right now with a box copy of Chaotix is not going to be a very cheap thing whatsoever, and then considering the fact that you have to plug it into a Sega Genesis, playing this one game on original hardware is going to run you a pretty penny. But on MiSTer FPGA, you get every single core that you could possibly imagine, and now you can get a MiSTer for under $200 when they are in stock, so that's great as well. So Chaotix has definitely seen some improvements, and it is a game. If you've heard it's terrible and you shouldn't play it, that's not true. If you heard it's a hidden gem, that definitely isn't true as well. It is a completely decent game that is fun to take a look at. But moving over to other games that will work on the core, this is Golden Axe, and it is a port to the 32X, and it's another title you can just sit down and play. And that is the fun thing. Fans out there are making new experiences for the 32X, and that's always great because of course it doesn't have a very big library. So definitely go ahead and Google new 32X games and ROM hacks. You're going to find a decent amount of fun, because honestly, even though there's other ways to play Golden Axe, seeing it running here on the 32X core in and of itself is just a little fun of a party trick, and it is one of those classic beat 'em ups for Sega, so it's always going to be a fun time. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me, where's the first time you ever played Golden Axe? What did you think? I still remember seeing it in my local arcade in Vermont, the Dream Machine, when I was a kid, and then of course when it got ported to home console, I definitely wanted to play it there as well, and it is where I decided that every single beat 'em up that has a dwarf character in it is what I'm going to play as. Basically now my rule for beat 'em ups is if there is some sort of dwarf with a battle axe, it's who I have to use. But honestly, as we see Golden Axe being run here on the core, even though we know the core is not 100% complete, you'd be hard pressed to think that it was doing anything other than what real hardware would do if you used a flash cart and popped this game in. And that's all we ever need out of something like MiSTer FPGA cores, obscuring the line between real hardware and the FPGA recreation of that hardware. Because when you sit down at MiSTer FPGA with a controller in your hand, you just want to play the games like you normally would, no matter what hardware or software emulator you're on, and that's exactly what you're getting. And with a game as good as Golden Axe, you know you're getting some quality fun as well. And it's going to be our next soundtrack sample as well, so go ahead and listen to the audio quality coming out of the 32X core for Golden Axe, a game that was never available at retail, but come back and it's got a couple more improvements to show. And that sounds like Golden Axe should sound to me. And as we move over to Virtual Fighter, this is one game I asked a few people in direct messages, and apparently it still has a tiny bit of slowdown compared to the actual original 32X. So hopefully that gets improved soon. And before you ask, Model 1 on MiSTer FPGA, I think it would be doable, but no one's working on it whatsoever. And considering the very thin library, I don't know if anyone ever will, because it's one of those things. People love to create what they want to create, and when there's a ton of games for something, it definitely compels people to want to get it done. But on Model 1, of course, we have some original amazing games, but not the biggest library in the world compared to something like 32X, where you get a good roster of games. Again, it's not anywhere near as big as the Master System, Sega Genesis, Saturn, or even Dreamcast, which doesn't exist on MiSTer, but the 32X does have a decent library, and basically every single game now is working. There's still going to be a glitch here and there every once in a while, but what other console gives you Jerry the King Lawler in his full crown in the background just doing the commentary? And even though I haven't watched wrestling for over like 25 years now, Jerry the King Lawler is still one of the most hilarious, funny things about the WWF and the WWE. But you can go ahead and pop this core into your consoles folder, play it and test it out and have fun with it. But leave me a comment down below and you tell me, of all the 32X games out there, which one is your personal favorite? For me, I would definitely say it would be Tempo. It just is so charming and colorful. That game always hits every single time I play it. The one game that I always want to love but can never figure out is Colibri. Just always gets me confused. But that's the current situation with the MiSTer FPGA 32X core. It has seen improvements in the month of June, and hopefully, just like the Sega Saturn core, will be buttoned up soon. I know it's not as popular as any other of the other Sega hardware on MiSTer FPGA, but there's always something to love about every single piece of hardware out there, and for the 32X there's definitely like a dozen or so games that I would recommend are something you should play. But short of that, we are done. I'll let you know the next time 32X updates, but we'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye.